Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Hillsborough Transportation Planning Organization. It is Wednesday, October 12th. Can we all please join together, stand up, and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we have a roll call, please, and a declaration of quorum?
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Kemp?
Here.
Commissioner Overman?
Here.
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Here.
Councilmember Citro?
Here.
Councilmember Hurtak? Mayor Ross?
Here.
Mayor Kilton?
Here.
Gina Evans?
Here.
Adelie LeGrand? Greg Slater?
Here.
Charles Klug?
Here.
Planning Commissioner Powell? Board Member Vaughn? I believe Board Member Vaughn is virtual. We do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a vote of consent for remote participation?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Commissioner Overman for remote member participation. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Just a
Yes.
point of order, I just
Commissioner
received a text from Ms. LeGrand saying that she has some equipment issue and so that she won't be attending.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe Commissioner Smith and Member Vaughn are online, so we will look out to recognize them when we get to discussion items later in the program. For right now, though, can we have a motion for approval of the minutes of September 14th?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Commissioner Overman.
And Myers.
And Myers. Please indicate your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, Ms. Alden, we have a special presentation this morning before we get to public comment.
Thank you, sir. And we are excited to let you know that the Florida chapter of the American Planning Association recognized one of our projects with an award of excellence at the statewide conference last month. This is a joint project between the TPO and the Planning Commission for an outreach and educational program to young people. I'd like to ask that HTV roll a very brief video. This is just a 3-minute video. It gives you a sense of the program. And then I'd like to invite a couple of special guests to come up and take a photograph with us, if that's all right.
Planning today affects our future tomorrow.
Planning today affects our future tomorrow.
Planning today affects our future tomorrow.
In 2021, Plan Hillsborough updated its non-discrimination and equity plan. We wanted to be more inclusive with our public engagement, and as a result, we created the Flip Junior Ambassadors Program. So we partnered with the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association, who serves a community of concern, and we taught the kids planning workshops, and they learned about ways that they can plan their neighborhood.
On our field trip downtown, we learned about this map, City Hall. We went to City Hall, and then that's when they was just talking about what do we want to put in our neighborhood. I learned about that the black stuff, the black things that's bumpy on the sidewalks are for blind people to trace them, so then they would know where they're at.
Out of this program, what do you think you're going to start doing to?
Being more careful with the environment, like not throwing trash around, not like messing up my stuff, and trying to improve my neighborhood more.
Flip Junior inspired me to want to be a planner and to want to be a mathematician.
During the Flip Junior program, the kids created pop-up cities And they produced TikToks about bicycle and pedestrian safety. They also rode different modes of public transportation, and they even participated in beautification projects such as painting crosswalks and painting garden boxes in their playground. The Flip Junior program inspired these kids, and now they understand the power of their own voice and the value of creating opportunities, safe spaces, and beautiful places.
Thank you so much. And so I mentioned that we have a couple of special guests with us this morning. When I call your names, if you could come up and have a seat in one of the chairs in front of our chairman, and then we'll invite the board to gather and stand behind you for the photograph. So we have some of the leadership of the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association, who is our partner in this project, Miss Lena Young-Green and Miss Naya Young. If you could come up and have a seat. We also have a couple of our project managers for this project. Miss Davida Franklin, our TPO Community Engagement Coordinator, and is Miss Fatima Elcott here? Okay, she's not here. And our previous project manager, Miss Gina Torres, who kind of got this whole initiative going. We're working with Miss Young-Green. So if you wouldn't mind having a seat, just in the center would be fabulous. And then if I could invite the board members to all stand up and gather behind them, we'll just take a quick photo. Thank you.
Sell yourself short, Joe.
And Fatima's coming. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this project.
All right, well, thank you very much for that. And we will now move to the public comment section of our agenda. We have 30 minutes set aside for public comment with up to 3 minutes per speaker. Staff will unmute you when the chair recognizes you as needed. The chair may allow for additional time later in the agenda. We do have I think 8 people signed up for public comment this morning. The first is Chris Vella, followed by Christopher Hatton and Candace Savitz.
Good morning. Both Chris Villa and Christopher Hatton are not in the meeting, so Candace Savitz.
Good morning. This is Candace Savitz. I am a longtime resident of Tampa Heights. And I love the city of Tampa and its people. Money Magazine just named us one of the best places to live. But I wonder if they've been down to my neighborhood lately. I am speaking up today in opposition of something still on the drawing board. We need to delete this hot mess right now. I'm talking about the Hillsborough to Beers Avenue 275 disaster waiting to happen. It's on the LRTP. And I ask why. Do we not have enough forethought to know that our city will suffer if this goes forward? We are still fighting over the existing projects that are killing the heart of Tampa. Just stop this. I'd like to mention field of debris. Field of debris. This is an industrial term, also an environmental term, a military term, also a term used by fire departments. Field of debris from Hillsborough to Beers, turning over the heart artery of our city to FDOT. Are we crazy? Here's what their field of debris looks like. Toxic dust everywhere, giant broken concrete pieces, heavy machinery, diesel fumes, jackhammers at all hours of the night, 2,000-degree sparks flying in a residential neighborhood, piles of rubble. It looks like a bomb went off at Lake and 275. And I know the Chelsea intersection isn't much better. But also allow me to draw attention to the field of debris from Hillsborough to Beers. 9 miles, 1 mile wide. That's just a half a mile on either side. The enormity of that field, over 250 million square feet, given over to FDOT to turn into a toxic dump for 7 to 10 years, something like that. And we are still hashing out the DTI and the Tampa Heights toxic 275 lead poisoning. This is not over. That is not over. LRTP, Hillsborough to Bears, just scratch this off now. Do the right thing. Show some forethought, please. And I am submitting this written transcript via email. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just ask if I could remind the clerk about the clock. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mauricio Rosas.
Yes, hi. Mauricio Rosas speaking. Commissioners, thank you for hearing us. First, I want to extend a thank you to Kimberly Overman for working hard on the underpasses to increase the size from 5 foot to 8 foot. I also want to commend FDOT in the fact that they've done a good job now in sending out surveys so that we get to decide what kind of facade we have and what we don't want. So if that can continue to happen, that will help out the community. This morning, one of my key concerns is that the tip and the TPO voted to remove the widening of I-275 within the existing footprint. So that means within everything that FDOT has purchased, we in Seminole Heights and along the Ybor Heights corridor unanimously had said no more widening. When Commissioner Leslie Miller was in office, he said not one single constituent supported this. So now we need the tip to be matching with the LRTP to match the tip. The tip says no more construction north of Hannah Avenue. The LRTP needs to say no more construction north of Hannah Avenue. And I am requesting that the TPO view this as an amendment to the LRTP and remove it. Secondly, the RCP, which is the Reconnecting Communities Program, the city is filing for a grant for Ashley Drive. Ashley Drive is not connecting any community. The county has issued its support for that particular project, but yet the city council has not afforded, the Tampa City Council has not afforded support for the Boulevard project, or at least the RCP that the county is submitting, so that we could actually have a product that the community has a vision for. We need the city council, the members who are there now, to be aware that the city administration supports, does not support, but does not oppose. But yet they wanted the county support for the Ashley Street project. The Ashley Street RCP is wrong. It's not in the spirit of the law. And I think that I know for a fact the Tampa mayor's administration is doing a very bad thing by using RCP grant money simply as an amenity for those who live in those areas. That's not the spirit of the law. So please, take these 3 items into consideration, including the fact that I said FDOT is doing something good.
Thank you, Mr. Rosas. Thank you. Rick Fernandez?
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, one and all. Rick Fernandez. I'm the Vice Chair of your CAC. Appearing here in my individual capacity, I also chair the Transportation Committee for the Tampa Heights Civic Association. I'm here to talk about a couple of things today. One that I mentioned in my comments to you last month regarding CAC membership, your Citizens Advisory Committee. Chair Roberts of our committee will be commenting on this to some degree a few moments from now, but I have a couple of my own comments that I'd like to make. Specifically relevant to this board, I want to make sure that Council Maniscalco is aware that his seat on the CAC was declared vacant as of the last meeting, and that is a vacancy that needs to be filled as soon as possible. Please, sir. And Council Hurtak, I believe you are already aware that your seat on the CAC has been vacant since John Dingfelder resigned back in March, and certainly that constituency has had no voice at the table since that time, and since your appointment to this board has remained silent. I understand that there have been requests made by Council Hurtak's office to move forward with an appointment, but that request has been sidelined by the director, presumably because the TPO staff is trying to work a reorganization of our CAC. That will be addressed also in Mr. Roberts' comments, I suspect. But in any event, if we wait for reorganization of the CAC, these seats are going to be vacant into next year. And that's not fair to us as a committee, and it's not fair to your constituents either. Also, Council Citro, your seat on the CAC is operating under an expired term, and I would certainly encourage you to re-up your current member. That individual is doing a fine job, is very, very present at our meetings, but again, her term has been expired since February of 2022. And finally, the status report items, agenda item 9, regarding the 275 lanes north of Hillsborough. I would simply remind the CAC has moved to strike that project back in 2021 from the tip. This board went forward with a similar motion in 2021 to strike it from the tip, and I would encourage you now to move forward with an amendment of the LRTP to finally put a stake in the heart of this monster. In that regard, I associate myself with the comments of Ms. Savitz and Mr. Rosas. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. Sharon Calvert.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Calvert, and regarding agenda item 9 regarding the 275 widening, I support the widening of I-275. With heavy hearts, we have watched what happened to the south of us in South Florida by Hurricane Ian. Tampa Bay, the entire state, and the entire country saw how important and critical our major roads are, especially when disaster strikes. That 275 corridor was my escape hatch from Pinellas as we had to pick up our daughter in South Tampa, who also was told to evacuate, to head north and go inland. That major corridor is used by the entire Tampa Bay area to go to Ray J, to go to Moffett, to use major medical facilities, to go to USF, Busch Gardens, the airport, the port. Growth continues in northern Hillsborough and is swelling in South Pasco. And including even a thought of removing traffic lanes from Florida Avenue in Nebraska will be a disaster with no additional capacity on 275 because traffic seeps like water and the local roads will be congested, unsafe, and much more dangerous. There is a precedent set, though. The rail projects that have been in your LRTP for decades, even after the 2010 rail tax was defeated by the voters of Hillsborough County, the TPO board never removed them. They never removed those rail projects, so future boards will not have to deal with them. They kept them in and never put a stake through the heart of those projects. The 2045 LRTP is outdated and unrealistic, and it's almost become worthless. It uses outdated cost estimates, some from your 2040 plan. It includes $3 billion that doesn't exist, such as using 100% of the CIT tax for roads, which is obviously impossible. And that ginned up the dollar for roads, but the reality is in your plan, more dollars are spent on transit than on roads. And add in increasing expenses, and this board can never keep the promises they made in the plan. Assistant County Administrator John Lyons' memo of April 19th to the Hillsborough County Commissioners confirms that. If the TPO removes the much-needed additional I-275 capacity from your LRTP, it will only serve to provide more proof that the TPO board shows no regard for our roads, which is quite shameful after Hurricane Ian. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Larson?
I do not have Rob Larson in the meeting.
All right. Is there anyone else that is in line for public comment this morning?
There is no one else.
All right. Thank you very much. We are going to then move on to our regular agenda. Our first item will be committee reports and advance comments. We're going to hear from Bill Roberts, the CAC chair, and then from Davida Franklin from the TPO staff, and finally from Beth Alden, our director. Good morning.
I think I've learned how to turn the microphone on since last meeting. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the TPO board. I'm Bill Roberts. I chair your Citizens Advisory Committee. We held our regular meeting on October the 5th. We took action on 4 items that came before us. The first was a action taken to approve the policy and bylaw changes and recognize that there were some vacancies, as was mentioned earlier. There are several vacant seats. There are several seats on our CAC that need reappointment. Our committee and I both encourage you to fill those seats and to re-up or reappoint members so that we'll have a full contingent. Secondly, the CAC approved and recommended to this board the TIP amendment that's coming before you today on the walk bike safety and the HART Ferry grant. Our third action was to recommend to this board the health impact assessment. We had quite a discussion on this item, and we asked the staff to provide us further details and give the CAC a briefing on how that data was collected. There was some concern about how the CDC, not the CAC, but the CDC collected the data that was used in the presentation. And then finally, the Citizens Advisory Committee deferred action on the 2 organizational plans that were presented by staff to reorganize the CAC itself. We're endeavoring, as you know, on your board, to create a committee that is better representative of our county, both geographically and demographically. To that end, the CAC's asked our staff to assist us in putting together a workshop so that we can determine how we can best proceed to organize the CAC and represent the divergent views of our county, especially geographic views. The emphasis has been on having elected members of City Council and County Commission be firmly in position to make those appointments. But there is discussion about what the makeup of your board will be and who will make those appointments. And so we encourage you to fill those appointments if you don't have any. We will have our workshop, and hopefully I'll come back to you at our next meeting and be able to give you a report on where we stand. We have taken some action to encourage greater citizen involvement, including approval of those staff recommendation to move our Citizens Advisory Committee meetings to 6 p.m. in the evening rather than 9 a.m. Morning meeting that we've held for a number of years. There are some other changes and some tweaks that we'll be making, but I'll come back and give you a full report after that workshop. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions, and I thank you.
Commissioner Overman?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Roberts, thank you very much for your service for many, many years. Just for the record, I'd like to ask, what is the process for notifying those that make appointments of expiring or potentially expiring appointments? I mean, I know that the Board of County Commission makes probably over 100 appointments. Right. Over the year, they all expire at different time periods. People resign, and but what is the process of notifying city council or board, any of our board members of expiring appointments and how, and when those appointments are to be filled and how they are filled.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, for that question. And I won't try to present myself as the expert on that. Dr. Johnny Wong is here today. He represents the staff on our committee. My understanding, Commissioner, is that the Planning Commission staff monitors closely vacancies and appointments to our committee as well as the others, and sends notification to all elected officials as well as eligible members of the TPO if there is a vacancy that has occurred or is occurring in their appointments to this particular committee. Beyond that, if Ms. Alden wants to add anything further, I think that's the general procedure. As you heard in public comment, there seems to be either some confusion or some situation where these appointments are not being made pending reorganization of the TPO board itself. And I think Mr. Fernandez quite eloquently described that we think that those appointments ought to move forward pending the reorganization of the TPO board.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Mr. Fernandez had made a comment regarding one of my appointments that apparently had expired, but when I checked, it hadn't expired. So that's why I'm asking to get some clarity about what that process looks like and who our contact is to make sure that we're keeping those appointments forward. I'd also like to recommend that we fill those existing positions that aren't anticipated to change. Given that I don't see us taking away positions at this point, and those positions are critically important to our future. So.
They are important to our committee.
But that's a personal,
Let me
that's a personal
give Ms.
opinion.
Alden a chance to weigh in on this because she's wanted to say something.
Thank you so much, and I'll try to keep this brief. In addition to the reviews that Mr. Roberts mentioned, we also every January do a review of attendance and just sort of make sure that there's kind of a check every year, and it's transparent. It's done in the form of a presentation to the committee, of where are we in terms of attendance and do we need to recruit new members and that kind of thing. This past year, because of one of the recommendations out of the non-discrimination plan, we have been talking with the CAC almost all calendar year about how the CAC itself is organized and how we can create more opportunities for people from more walks of life to participate in the CAC. We're not there yet, as Mr. Roberts mentioned. The CAC last month asked us to organize a workshop to talk about this further, which we will be happy to do. But in the meantime, the existing members of the CAC continue to serve until they are replaced. That's what's in our bylaws, in the TPO bylaws. So all of the existing members continue to serve as full voting members of the CAC. Our proposal back to the CAC of how we can provide more opportunities for wider participation, it's our goal as staff to find ways for all existing members who would like to continue to serve to be able to serve on a new reorganized CAC. But right now, we are trying to leave the door open for what those seats look like. And are they from different geographic districts? Are they selected based on some of the demographic groups in our county who have not been participating in the CAC? And how do we go through that process of recommending members to you all for your confirmation? So that's why we have not been contacting you during this past year to re-up your appointments. I do expect that we will be coming back to you with a more specific recommendation for how to move this forward.
Yes, Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you. Ultimately, does changing the CAC is decided by this board, correct? But we don't know anything about this because no presentation has been made to us. Is that correct?
Right. We have not done a presentation to this board yet.
See, so I have I think that there should be no pause in the appointments that are being made now. To me, that would seem totally inappropriate without this board's, it shouldn't be an administrative decision that's made outside of this board. And so I would think that those seats need to be filled immediately. And until and when this board gets that information and makes those decisions, to me, it's inappropriate to be, not filling positions on the CAC board.
Then why don't we come back next month with a recommendation for you all of how we should move forward with the CAC organizational structure?
I would even say right now, by next month, that all those seats should be filled that exist now. And then you can bring back and proceed, but right now, all those seats that exist now should be filled. That's.
As a point of clarification, there's nothing preventing people from appointing to those seats, correct?
Sure. I had asked you all at one of our previous board meetings to give us some time to have this conversation with the existing CAC. Because as I said, our goal as staff would be to allow all the existing members to continue to serve. The current CAC members do not want to expand the size of the CAC. They want to leave it at about 30. That's not the same as the approach that other MPOs around the state have taken, where they have expanded the membership to create more opportunities. Our CAC would like to keep it at 30 seats. If you fill all the seats that we have, it will tie our hands in being able to create new opportunities. So what I'm saying to you is, I think that there is a way that we can do this organization and still provide opportunities for all the folks who have been putting in their time and their energy and their heart into being on the CAC, find ways for them to be in some new slots. But please don't tie our hands just yet.
Again, I would just say that you fill it like it is now, and if you want to implement a new plan, it should be approved by us and then have a time when that happens, not that you start to empty out the CAC as it exists now and then come to us with a plan, and then, after you've already, people haven't filled slots, it seems not appropriate to me as a way to move forward.
Are you open to having a proposal where we add some more seats to the CAC? If you all are open to doing that, I'll be happy to bring that back for your consideration.
And no one's asked this board before, and I really think that that's significant.
I'm trying to work it out with the CAC members.
I understand, but I really think that it's, we do significant appointments to the CAC, and that it should be something that also moved to this board, and to have it happen without this board's knowledge. And I've been contacted by several people that are very concerned about it, and we heard the concerns today.
Commissioner Overman?
I'll keep it short, but I agree the appointments are being made are important. I do agree that there's an opportunity to expand it because the equity study that's been done would indicate that a greater diversity there is of value. I would like to ask that expired positions those board positions be notified and have those filled, and dialogue with the CAC on this issue. The good news is the CAC has done an excellent job of, one, moving the meeting to 6 p.m. is a game changer right there. I mean, how many people can come on a Wednesday morning from 9, which oftentimes would run till noon, a meeting, and fight rush hour traffic to come downtown to a meeting and have a commitment of all morning. I will salute the members that have done that for years and appreciate their commitment to providing this board with good guidance. And I thank you very much for all those that have done it. I did it for several years, so I know what it takes. But two, we also permit now virtual attendance. And that also makes it easier for folks to not have to, drive to downtown to attend a meeting and serve. So the fact that we now have 2 more easier ways that people can attend may also support the need to, or at least the desire to expand the membership in a way that still allows for the goals of diversity to be achieved. So I would ask that we notify each of the members that to have expired positions to urge them to do what they needs to be done, and look forward to coming back with a solution that the workshop provides the board at this point.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just to follow up, the vacancy that I have from my appointee that was mentioned happened not to term limits, but it was because of missing 3 meetings, I believe, or more. The individual that I had appointed is self-employed, small business individual, and the 9 o'clock does make it difficult. And suggesting that it be moved to 6 p.m., as Commissioner Overman mentioned, is a game changer because people are working 9 to 12 in the middle of the week, in the middle of the workday. It's not the easiest for everybody, and we want diversity on the board. We want everybody that is able to or wishes to serve to be able to, and not have to be, preempted from serving because of, other obligations that they're earning a living. So that's good, and that would open it up and make it more accessible to other people in that changing to 6 p.m. So thank you.
Mr. Roberts, yes.
Thank you for all those helpful comments, and let me just add that there's no specific opposition within our committee. There are some committee members who would like to keep it the same size that it is, but we recognize that the greater diversity on this committee can only be helpful. And so that's the purpose of our workshop, is to see if we can find a way to expand that membership and bring in more voices. So I thank you for your comments and your continued support.
Thank you. And let me just close by agreeing with you that the more people that we can get, ultimately we'll get more opinions at the table and more diverse expressions of different views. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Franklin, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Davida Franklin with the TPO, and here is your summary of committee reports and public comments. So please note that due to the Technical Advisory Committee's meeting that just occurred on Monday, October 10th, you do not have a report in your board folder from that committee. So the comments that I make today will serve in lieu of that report that you don't have. Also, the Livable Roadways Committee and the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee did not have meetings due to Hurricane Ian, so that's also why you don't have their reports in your folder. So pertaining to today's action items, for the Transportation Improvement Program amendment that's coming before you today for the FDOT, or Florida Department of Transportation Walk Bike Safety Outreach, and HART New Passenger Ferry, that was approved by the Technical Advisory Committee, and as you heard, may have heard earlier, also the Citizens Advisory Committee. And then the Health Impact Assessment of the 2045 Long Range Transportation Program Complete Streets Projects was approved by the Technical Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee. Pertaining to your consent agenda, the Plant City Canal Connector Trail Study was approved by those two committees, the Technical Advisory Committee and Citizens Advisory Committee as well. Additional notes from the Technical Advisory Committee are that they also approved the Health Impact Assessment, which I did mention that earlier, and they heard status reports on the Tampa Moves Plan, the Hillsborough County Paved Trail, the Hillsborough Count Paved Trail Big Data Survey, and the TPO's Multimodal Level of Service Report. Now, for the public comments, we did receive some through email and social media. We did not receive any pertaining to today's proposed Transportation Improvement Program amendment. And what we received on social media were comments asking for the TPO to reevaluate how we set goals for Vision Zero. And the request was to focus more on zero rather than projected numbers, the projected number of annual fatalities. And then Chris Vela and Gloria Jana Royster noted that there should have been more public input for the City of Tampa's proposed Ashley Drive redesign, and they also shared other concerns and suggestions regarding that project. Neil Cosentino shared the benefits of repurposing the soon-to-be demolished span of the Howard Franklin Bridge, and Elena Bracer shared that the Safe Streets for All program for the City of Tampa will implement recommendations from the TPO's Safe Routes to School study. So the attachments that you have in your board folder, these comments that I summarized, they are in that folder, and it was sent to you by Cheryl Wilkening yesterday at after 5 p.m. And this concludes my report. So now Ms. Alden will give you an update on the policy meeting that just occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. The policy committee was briefed about a study that the TPO conducted for Plant City, a trail feasibility study connecting downtown Plant City with a preserve north of I-4, and reviewed and supported the study recommendations. A couple of discussion points that came out of the meeting were one, that the TPO should include in our messaging and public outreach when we are looking at a project like the trail feasibility study, we should also be asking the public about their opinion about how do projects like that get paid for. And we had a presentation about a DOT project looking at wildlife movements across the I-4 corridor, and there was a discussion about coordinating further with some of the county staff, particularly from the ELAP program and rural agriculture, looking at how we can coordinate to facilitate wildlife movements across corridors like I-4. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the consent agenda now. However, before we take it up, Commissioner Overman asked to be recognized related to item C.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You know, we've got a great consent agenda, and yes, the policy committee, we covered a lot of ground. However, there's in the consent agenda is a letter of support for Tampa's RCP grant application for Ashley Drive, which, you know, maybe that actually is a letter that's been presented to that the executive director would sign. But I'm not certain that this board has actually seen that presentation or has considered the support of it in, you know, as a whole, and advised Ms. Alden to go ahead and send that letter. So I was curious if we could pull that and address that separate from the consent agenda. I'd like to move that we do for further discussion and action.
So I'm going to treat that as a motion for A and B.
Yep.
And we'll leave C aside. It's been seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. I don't think we need a roll call vote on consent. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Excellent, thank you.
All right. So item C has not been taken up. What is your suggestion on that? Do you want to have a presentation added to our agenda? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, in this particular case, given it was on consent, it would require action to be taken, because that's what we were going to do. So either we could bring it to the action items. I don't know what the time sensitivity of this is, so maybe we could ask Ms. Alden to give us some guidance here.
Yes, ma'am. It is time sensitive. The grant application is due tomorrow. We have Alex Henry from the City of Tampa on the line, who's prepared to speak to this topic, and I believe he has maybe 3 slides that he can share with you all, if that's agreeable.
I would take the chair's recommendation.
Well, that's fine. We can do that. We do. I want to tell everyone we have a busy agenda this morning, but if we can handle this expeditiously, I think it's fine to go ahead and do it. So
It's up
go
to
ahead.
you.
No. You've asked for this to be removed, so
Yeah, okay.
you know, I want you to have an opportunity to learn what it is and ask any questions.
Well, then I'm going to just ask staff to do a brief presentation of what it is so that the board could offer some guidance and support for the letter, should that be the decision of the board. And I don't know who would make that presentation. Ms. Alden?
So we have Alex Henry from the City of Tampa staff on the line. Alex, are you able to unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, and I believe Cheryl was sharing some slides a moment ago. There we go. So Alex, just say, advance to the next slide when you're ready.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and provide some information on this project this morning. I'm Alex Henry. I am the City of Tampa Vision Zero Coordinator in our Mobility Department. Next slide. So before I describe some of the project specifics, I just wanted to give a quick rundown of the project timeline to give you some history of where this project came from and some of the outreach we've done to date regarding the project. So the need to reconfigure Ashley Drive was really highlighted in Tampa's Envision City Center Plan, which laid out a vision for downtown Tampa. One of the key tenets of that plan was improving connections between downtown and the Hillsborough Riverfront, and the plan did identify Ashley Drive as being a major barrier to achieving that vision, just given the auto-centric nature of the corridor, the ways in which it cuts off the historic street grid and inhibits bicycle and pedestrian movements. So out of that plan, it's something that city staff has been looking at and trying to advance concepts to achieve that vision. Starting back in 2019, city staff began coordinating very closely with FDOT and their TB Next team to develop a concept, prove the traffic feasibility, and ensure that it is forwardly compatible with any future interstate plans. Once that was laid out, we spent the last couple of years doing community outreach, which has included presentations to various downtown stakeholders and residents groups, including the Downtown CRA, the Downtown River Arts Neighborhood Association, both the Technical Advisory Committee and the Livable Roadway Committees of the TPA, as well as some one-on-one meetings with local advocates and community members, such as Gloria Jean Royster. And in addition to that, we also held 2 public meetings to present our initial concepts and get some feedback about Ashley Drive. More generally, just very quick, the general sentiment and feedback that we received was supportive of the project, and I outlined the need to address Ashley Drive and promote more multimodal connections and accommodations along the corridor. Next slide. So this is a concept of what we are proposing as part of the project, and it also shows some adjacent complementary city efforts that we're working on to develop affordable housing within the corridor. But essentially, really the big change that we're proposing to make as part of this project is reconfiguring the Ashley Drive to Tampa Street connection that exists today. So currently, if you're headed southbound on Ashley Drive coming off of the interstate, you have the option to either continue south on Ashley Drive to Tyler Street, or you can veer off and take an off-ramp to Tampa Street, which connects kind of at an angle, which has presented some issues for cyclists in the bike lane there, pedestrians crossing the street, and also creates kind of a weaving motion. And then as a result of that off-ramp, there is a northbound flyover that takes you over that ramp and continues to the interstate. So what we are proposing as part of this project is to remove that Ashley Drive to Tampa Street off-ramp and to establish more of a traditional urban signalized intersection at Ashley and a newly reconnected Harrison. So we would be punching Harrison through from Tampa Street to Ashley Drive, connecting it back to the river, and then installing 2 new signalized intersections at Harrison Street and at Tampa Street, which we have some pictures of what that would look like in the future. So what that also allows us to do is to take down the flyover on northbound Ashley Drive and keep Ashley at grade for a little longer up to Royal, which allows us to add a conditional connection in to Royal Street, further improving that multimodal connectivity. And it also creates some space, as you can see in the bottom right of the image, for some community uses. So potentially the installation of a gateway park or some other use that we will be coordinating with the community as we get into the project to determine the best way to use this new space that would be freed up by eliminating some of these ramps and flyovers. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that in addition to this project, the city of Tampa has been working to redevelop the parcels in between Ashley Drive and Tampa Street into mixed income housing. We've been partnering with the downtown CRA to buy up the remaining parcels that you can see here on the right, and the city is working on issuing an RFP to developers to redevelop these 4 acres of underutilized land into mixed housing units with ground floor retail. So as part of that, we'll be working with the developer to build out some of these other street connections that you see along Royal and Fortune to further complement those connectivity pieces and kind of stitch back together the urban fabric of North Downtown Tampa that was taken out when Ashley Drive and the interstate were installed. Next slide. So we understand that some of these engineering drawings can kind of be a little confusing sometimes. So we have produced a couple of renderings to show what this will look like when completed. So this is an aerial view of Ashley Drive looking north. So again, as you can see in that left image, that is what it looks like today with the off-ramp to Tampa Street and the northbound flyover. With our new concepts of establishing a more traditional urban signalized intersection, it'll allow us to install new pedestrian features and traffic calming measures, such as the pattern crosswalk shown there. As you can see going north, part of the proposal is also to add in some additional traffic calming measures north on Ashley, landscaping, street trees, things of that nature to really help reinforce that downtown context and signal to drivers that are coming into downtown Tampa from the interstate that they are entering into an urbanized area. They need to mind their speed and slow down as they transition into Tampa's downtown. As you can kind of see in this image, we'll also be making walk-bike improvements on the newly reconnected Harrison Street, including sidewalks and bicycle lanes with the green pavement markings at the conflict areas. Next slide. And this is just another view of what the intersection would look like compared to there and now. Again, this is the newly reestablished intersection at Ashley and Harrison, and we'd be installing something very similar at Tampa and Harrison as well. So just in conclusion, we do feel like this project does align very well with the intent of the Reconnecting Communities grant, which is really focused on improving community connectivity, which we are definitely doing by reestablishing some of these historic street connections that will improve bicycle and pedestrian access by eliminating some of that out of direction travel that folks in North Downtown currently have to travel in order to access the Riverwalk and some of our other riverside destinations, while also promoting economic activity, which is another big focus of the grant, by supporting the growth of affordable housing that the city is concurrently working on. All doing so while serving the census tract that the project is located and has been identified as an area of persistent poverty and has equity indicators, which we've included in the grant, that are above the city and certainly the nationwide averages as well. The last thing that I'll mention is just that we are competing for the capital and construction bucket of this grant. So we're not in competition with the TPO's grant application, which is applying for planning funds, which is a separate kind of subsect of the grant program. So next slide. Great, and that was just a very quick rundown of that. I think we'd be happy, especially if awarded the grant, to come back and provide some additional information, but wanted to give you a very quick overview of what the project is and what we're intending to do. So thank you.
Okay, I'll just ask just one question and just say thank you very much for showing that to us. It obviously is going to be a really nice project for downtown. It also, Tampa Street is actually the street that we're going to see if the streetcar ever gets moved and improved, where there's some connectivity to the transit that goes all the way to Ybor. So that might, if that ever happens, that'll be great. How much of this grant would require local funds that we do or do not have at the moment?
Great question. So it does require a 50% local match, which we are proposing to meet with city funds.
With city funds? Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have Councilman Maniscalco and then Mayor Ross.
Real quick, it's an interesting concept. We're righting the wrongs of the past because the interstate did divide Fortune Street, Royal, other streets that are cut off. This would create 3 or 4 new blocks. And as the gentleman mentioned, it's the mixed housing, affordable housing component, which we are in a very dire housing situation, and we can allow for, as part of the city's vision, the opportunity to build more housing to accommodate all the new businesses and jobs, and let people have more of that live, work, play, be able to live in the communities like everybody else, access to the Riverwalk like everybody else of different incomes. I think it's good. The only concern I have is, and maybe this is totally wrong, but I know we're discussing additional lanes on 275 going north. This has nothing to do with anything. I mean, I-4 is here, downtown is here. This has nothing to do with a larger master project. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just move approval for the letter of support.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mayor Ross, seconded by Commissioner Overman. I just want to say that, that exit ramp that divides into Ashley and Tampa Street is extremely dicey, particularly, as was said earlier, for anybody that's in anything other than a car. So I think that this is a good thing to be supporting as the city moves forward to try to make downtown safer. All those in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Sounds unanimous to me. All righty. We are going to move on to our action items now. The first is a TIP amendment, walk bike safety outreach, and HART new passenger ferry grant. And Roger Matthey from TPO staff is going to present that item. Good morning.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Chair, TPO board. We have 2 amendments to bring forward to you today, the TIP walk bike safety outreach and the HART new passenger ferry grant. Next slide, please. We have 2 amendments here. The FDOT walk bike safety outreach, you can see the addition of $401,000. The next amendment, the HART new passenger ferry grant, addition of $6 million. Next slide, please. All right, so for the walk bike safety outreach, FDOT will geofence some roads on the high injury network. If you happen to walk into the area, you have a device that's Bluetooth enabled, you'll have safety messages start popping up on your device. Next slide, please. This slide here, you show the additional funds of $401,000 for fiscal year 23. Next slide. The HART passenger ferry grant, the amendment, HART awarded a $6 million grant from USDOT. They also are using the funds to purchase a ferry of similar, what you see here, known as the Cross Bay Ferry. It's going to replace it and utilize the same route. And next slide. Here we're showing the addition of funds for, or the funding of just over 4.8 from FTA, the local funds at 1.25, and just over 6 million for the total for fiscal year 23. Next slide. The public outreach, as part of the adopted public participation plan amendments, we posted an issue of the newsletter release on social media. We published a web page and, excuse me, posted a sign at the Tampa Downtown Convention Center. Next slide. And both these amendments were presented to the CAC and TAC, and both were unanimously approved and they recommended approval to the TPO board. Next slide. And today we're recommending the approval of these 2 amendments for the fiscal year 23 through 27 TIP. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco?
A quick question regarding the new passenger ferry grant. Is it true that up until now, we have not, the Cross Bay Ferry, we never owned the ferry? It was a company that would come here a few months out of the year, then go back, but we never owned it. And this would allow us to purchase a ferry, so it will be our own, and then we can use it. It'll be, you know, within our control, and we no longer have to, you know, it's been 4 votes every time to approve the continuing of the project, but I know Commissioner Kemp, I think, you know.
Would like to answer your question.
Yeah.
Yes, is the answer. Yes. We've been working with and continue to work with HMS Ferries, which was one of the preeminent ferry companies around. They've served New York and Seattle and other projects in Florida, actually, Puerto Rico. And what we do basically is we get a ferry from up north that some of you may have noticed. I think the last one was a Provincetown 3. And when it's not operating during the winter months up there, we've leased it down here, which is much greater expense actually to do that. And we've also, more or less leased the crew, comes down with it and does the ferry for, we've had it for 6 months a year, and that's expanding. But I'm really thrilled because we would have a permanent year-round ferry that we owned. And that has been the match for that has been provided by the county at $1 million. And so it's a game changer. And the other point I'd just like to make, it looks like the ferry is arriving, we were supposed to start in October, but the ferry's arriving late due to the storms. It hasn't been able to make it here, but if we had the ferry here, they have been asked, and I think this will come to our county commission, that we could allow for the ferry to help in Fort Myers in the efforts that they're doing down there. They desperately need ferries to help them, and it takes several weeks to get it in, and that's why our season has been held up as well. So there are many reasons why that'll be a great benefit.
So it's a purchase, not a lease. It'll be ours, but then of course we'll have maintenance and hiring the crew. But having been on council, because again it comes city council, commission approval, multi jurisdictions. I've ridden the ferry. I've seen the numbers of ridership continuously rise. I've seen it sold out many, many times. The demand is there, and I think this is a worthy investment, especially when we talk about transportation alternatives. It's another tool in the toolbox to help people get across the water. And I will tell you one example of how it was beneficial. I was going to an event in St. Pete one night, and I took the ferry. I parked at City Hall, walked down to the ferry, and took it across. And I got to the event on time. There was a major accident or multiple accidents on 275, and people arrived to the same event as I did, but an hour and a half later. So again, if the road is not accessible, the ferry made it work, and I'm very supportive of it because I've seen in many ways how it's effective and a good investment.
Commissioner Overman.
Thank you, and I'll move approval partially because I am very much in favor of having the ferry project work forward. To Commissioner Kemp's comments, the largest rescue that we've had in a disaster was 9/11, and the ways people got off of Manhattan Island in large numbers was not because of trains and not because of roads, but because of the ferries that were in the area. And having a ferry in our area would have meant that a ferry that we have here locally could already be in Northport, could already be at Sanibel Island assisting in disaster recovery. So when we talk about emergency routes and how people move from one place to another or recover from a storm, this would be an asset to have in our community as well, and which is why I would move approval for this item.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call vote on this item? We do. Yes.
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 I'm not hearing the person calling out the names, but this is Commissioner Smith, and I'm a yes.
Thank you.
Name for Jessica Vaughn. I don't hear anyone calling the names, but I vote yes.
I think I've got it. Councilmember Citro. Yes. Mayor Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Kilton.
Yes.
Gina Evans.
Yes.
Greg Slater.
Yes.
Charles Klug.
Yes.
Planning Commissioner Powell.
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn.
Yes.
The motion passes 14-0.
Thank you. And to those that are online, we did hear your yes votes. All right, we're going to move on now to item B, which is the health impact assessment of the 2045 LRTP Complete Streets project.
Hi, board members. Joshua Barber here, TPO staff. I'll be brief today. I'm joined by Alex Moskovitz, who is from VHB. They were our consultant on this project. Next slide. A little bit of project background. This was requested by you all as part of our last Unified Planning Work Program. And it really helps to build upon the Health in All Policies resolution you all passed in 2019 and the Hillsborough County Health Atlas. And generally to, help integrate health concerns and priorities into all areas of our transportation planning process. We're looking to do a few things with this project, including better understanding the relationship between health outcomes and urban design, mobility, socioeconomics, demographics. We wanted to better understand how the implementation of complete streets would impact public health conditions, as well as to identify prioritization and urban design factors to help ensure a more healthy community. Next slide, please. We've worked towards this by partnering with VHB, as I said, who has developed a healthy mobility model. This is a tool that integrates healthy community design principles and uses GIS and readily available open source data in order to, next slide, please, analyze land use and urban design factors that affect health, establish baseline health assessments, forecast health outcomes, and as I said, identify and prioritize improvements to better community health. Next slide. First step in this is developing a community health risk assessment to help us perform baseline statistical analysis and identify variables that have a statistical relevance with chronic health conditions. And without getting too much into the weeds, that's what this looks like. This map on the right is an aggregate of 6 chronic diseases. And you can see the areas with the worst health outcomes in red and the best health outcomes in green. Next slide, please. In addition to the countywide analysis, we chose 5 study area roadways based on context classification for 3 big reasons. We wanted to better understand the relationships between health and urban design, mobility, the environment, demographics, socioeconomics in localized areas. We wanted to provide some examples on how the analysis from this project can guide transportation and design improvements, as well as to better understand how the 350 miles of complete streets in the 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan can improve health outcomes across the county. Next slide, please. Here are some health indicators. You can see that health is a very localized issue across the county. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, for example, the study area has a higher disease risk prevalence in all areas than the countywide average. US 301, for example, has higher blood pressure, higher chronic heart disease, high cholesterol than the countywide average. So it's really localized issues, and it indicates that we may need targeted approaches to address health across the county. Next slide, please. So kind of back to the statistical analysis. We use the following variables to help validate the model. Health outcomes served as our dependent variable, and the rest of these items served as independent variables. And the model ultimately told us whether a particular variable was statistically correlated with health outcomes, as well as the directionality of that correlation. Some, of course, were not statistically significant, and others were thrown out as a result of validation issues and correlation bias, stuff like that. Next slide, please. One of the major areas we looked at for statistical significance was demographics and economic characteristics. We found that by and large, These areas are significantly related to health outcomes. We saw that the county had large gaps in education, poverty, income, as well as rent and transportation cost burdens, and that these were often heavily correlated with health outcomes, both for particular chronic diseases as well as aggregate health risks. We could spend a lot of time discussing the implications of this, but for example, the chart on the right shows the relationship between health outcomes and educational attainment. And it is clear that areas with the highest rate of low educational attainment have by far the worst health outcomes. So, these issues go far beyond just transportation. Next slide, please. And to further illustrate this, we examine the relationship between environmental justice areas, that is low income and minority areas, and health outcomes. Next slide, please. And the big takeaway here is that our environmental justice areas were significantly more likely than our not environmental justice areas to have health outcomes that are below average. Next slide, please. The other area we looked at was, of course, urban design, environment, and how that impacted health outcomes, really our bread and butter here. We saw that in terms of transportation, areas with a higher share of car commuters, with long commutes, with high crashes, and higher shares of a population with no vehicle access had worse health outcomes. In terms of urban design and access, we saw that street intersection density and walkability were associated with improved health outcomes. We didn't really see a lot of significance for bikeways and greenways. It was kind of a mixed directionality, and that could just be because a lack of critical mass of bike facilities, or the benefits of the bikeways and greenways that exist are mitigated by the high crash rates in more urban areas. In terms of environmental exposure, we saw that high traffic proximity and poor air quality was associated with poor health outcomes across the board. The histogram on the right shows the relationship between PM2.5 concentrations and the number of census tracts that were EJ and non-EJ. You can see that EJ neighborhoods had worse air quality overall. Next slide, please. And just some examples, this is kind of takes place at a localized basis often. The countywide analysis doesn't always give us all the details we need. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, for example, has a high walkability score, has high intersection density, but has inconsistent and low quality sidewalks, has a lot of crashes, but it also has poor health outcomes in all categories. So, these are very localized issues. Lithia Pinecrest, for example, not a lot of traffic proximity, not a lot of crashes, but a lot of VMTs, a high transportation cost burden, not a lot of walkability, but no real big red flags for health outcomes, well below the countywide average. Next slide, please. So some key takeaways. Unequal distribution of wealth and resources is related to poorer health outcomes countywide, especially transportation and rent cost burdens. High traffic proximity and poor air quality was associated with poor health outcomes across the board. Street intersection density, walkability is associated with better health outcomes, nothing we didn't already know. And a high share of car commuters equates with poorer health outcomes, particularly in diseases associated with physical activity. Next slide, please. So we came up with some prioritization principles. We're suggesting that complete street projects in particular be prioritized in environmental justice communities, as social inequality is a major driver of health disparities in the county. We should really be focusing improvements on the most vulnerable and where we can kind of get the most benefit for our dollars, as well as prioritizing improvements in health burden communities. So those that are overburdened by chronic disease, EJ may not capture all the intersectional facets of what creates a health burden community. Next slide, please. And in terms of the kind of complete street treatments that we would recommend, treatments that improve active facility ratios, that reduce traffic proximity and air pollution, that improve safety, especially in urban context classifications, and improvements that incentivize non-car commutes. Next slide, please. And we came up with some planning level recommendations to kind of help address health issues using the outcomes of this study. These aren't corridor studies. This is just very high level recommendations to kind of give an example. Next slide, please. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, for example, once again, has very high chronic disease risk in all categories. 40-mile-an-hour road, 4 travel lanes, a lot of community amenities along the corridor. Next slide, please. And to kind of help address some of these issues, we've taken it from a 4-lane road to a 3-lane road with a center turn lane, a cycle path, improving tree density along the corridor to help improve air quality, reduce traffic proximity, as well as reducing speed limits to kind of help reduce crashes as well. Next slide. 301, this is a suburban context between Big Bend Road and Sun City. This was recently expanded to 6 travel lanes, a 45 to 55-mile-an-hour roadway. This has a higher disease prevalence in terms of high cholesterol, chronic heart disease, high blood pressure. There's a lot of walled housing developments here as well, so not very walkable. Next slide, please. So our improvements here mostly focus on improving walkability, non-car commutes, reducing the number of travel lanes a little bit, adding more active facility options, as well as creating more safe crossings for the residential developments in the area, particularly mid-block signalized full-stop crosses to kind of help support mobility in the area. Next slide, please. So some conclusions, next steps. Inequities in exposure to traffic, high crashes, air quality is connected with unequal health burdens, as well as an unequal distribution of wealth and resources is particularly associated with unequal health burdens. So that points to issues larger than just transportation as well. Over time, we really think that complete street treatments targeted to address chronic disease and related inequities will make Hillsborough County a healthier place to live. We'd really like to see as staff using the prioritization principles as a guide for selecting corridor studies and project funding. So prioritizing complete streets in health burden communities and environmental justice communities, and continuing to use our case study recommendations, as well as the Hillsborough County Complete Street Guide and the FDOT Complete Street Guide to help plan the 350 miles of complete streets in the long-range transportation plan on a context-by-context basis. Next slide. And that's really it. Our recommended action is to approve the attached technical memorandums. And I'm happy, Alex and I, to take any questions you all might have.
Councilman Maniscalco, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. This was a fascinating presentation, and I'll tell you why. Because we talk about transportation, we talk about housing, but we don't talk about health. And if you look at, especially in lower income communities, the higher risk of so many things, whether it's cholesterol, blood pressure, heart disease, whatever it is, there are a couple of things. First, the lack of walkability. You don't have the sidewalks. You don't have the bike lanes. You don't have the safety measures in place for people that don't have a car or have to get around elsewhere to get around safely. Also, food deserts and areas that are of lower income. They don't have the accessibility to the fresh foods that they need. It's oftentimes more expensive to eat healthy than it is to, for example, a chef salad, which is to me a healthier option, is more expensive than a Cuban sandwich or a devil crab. This is what I typically look at every day. And it should, all are delicious, but they're not the best things to eat. But again, people, they eat what they can afford. And that's one question or one comment. But I've often thought about what we can do as a government from the county and the city to promote a healthier community for everybody. We rely too much on the car here, meaning we have the convenience of being able to drive everywhere. We're not walking everywhere because it's not as walkable. You go to New York City, the people that I know that live there, subway, and they walk. But it's a pedestrian-friendly community. We are not. So the point I'm making is, as we tie all this together, is when we focus on these investments in our long-range plans of walkability, accessibility, safety, safer intersections, encouraging people to go out and move instead of you need a car. Everything is so spread out, and we're focusing on that density, that urban core. We have to look at the health of our residents. I was watching a documentary recently, and it ended with health is wealth, and we hear that all the time. But it's something that we don't discuss in government as to how we can keep our community healthy. And it all ties into, here we are at the TPO, what we approve or not approve or move forward with, it affects the health of our community. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have Commissioner Overman and Mayor Ross.
Okay, all right. I can't disagree. I cannot agree with you more in the sense that that this technical advice and the lens that it creates is, the good news is it's being incorporated in much of the work that Hillsborough County is doing in many, many ways. I know that the Affordable Housing Advisory Board member, my colleague Commissioner Myers, and I are really looking at where are we growing, how are we growing, how do we invest in housing per se. But, you know, coming forward, the Planning Commission is bringing the housing element and the transit emphasis corridors, as well as, you know, density models to take a look at how we grow moving forward that include these types of recommendations when designing communities. I had I guess I could call it pleasure of traveling down Bloomingdale this weekend trying to get to the park, and you would have thought that and this is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you would have thought it was, you know, 6 o'clock rush hour. There is no walkability there as on a road that is now designed for getting cars through and not necessarily designed for helping people get around, you know, on a more equitable basis. Which ultimately will hurt that community as it is becoming a very diverse, not only in population, but also in income. And that is critically important to support the county areas. So this work, I really, truly appreciate the report and the lens. But the county has been asked by Dr. Holt, our Director of Health, and they are working on the nexus between housing and healthcare. And this brings that into a very important element of that report in how we grow and how we address the population growth that we anticipate that's included in our long-range transportation plan. So I want to say thank you for this report, and we'll wholly support its adoption with the motion. So,
Mayor Ross.
Well, I'm not sure if that was a motion. I was going to make a motion to accept the report. All right, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Overman, seconded by Mayor Ross, or vice versa. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes.
Commissioner Overman?
yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Yes.
Councilmember Cedro?
Yes.
Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Kilton?
Yes.
Gina Evans?
Yes.
Greg Slater?
Yes.
Charles Klug? Planning Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
The motion passes 14-0.
Okay, thank you very much. We are now going to move on to status reports, and we have one today. It is a potential LRTP amendment, I-275, additional lanes from Hillsborough to Bears. I believe it was talked about a little bit earlier in public comment, but Johnny Wong is here from TPO staff to make a presentation. Good morning.
Good morning, board members. That's right, Johnny Wong, TPO staff, and I'm here to present to you the results of some long-range plan scenarios that we ran on 275 between Hillsborough and Bears Avenue. One is a 6-lane scenario and one is an 8-lane scenario. Forgive me. Thank you for running my slide, Cheryl, by the way. So for next slide, to give this presentation some structure, I've organized it into 3 sections. The first section is background info on 3 projects that will be constructed throughout this corridor. The second section presents the results of our analyses and will show how the 6-lane and the 8-lane scenarios perform, and then compare them to each other. And then the third section will wrap up the presentation and offer some next steps. Next slide, please. This is a bird's eye view map of 275 and the wider project area. There are 3 projects color-coded. 275 at the very southern portion of this map would be where the DTI is, and to the very north, Bears Avenue. From south to north, the orange and red projects are currently under construction, and then that bluish-green color to the north at the top of this slide runs from about Hillsborough Ave to Bears Ave. That segment doesn't currently have construction funding, but it's listed in the long-range transportation plan. Next slide, please. The orange and red taken together are what we're calling Phase 1 projects. The descriptions that are shown on this slide were taken from our Transportation Improvement Program, and you can see that construction in Phase 1 began last October. It's projected to wrap up in about 2026. Looking to the furthest southern point, that orange line is showing an improvement on the I-4 or on 275 from the I-4 ramp to about MLK Boulevard. That project will include an interchange improvement at the northbound entrance, Florabraska, and of course, the lane addition. The red represents a continuation of that lane addition, which takes it up to about Hillsborough Ave. And when completed, these 2 segments will have 8 lanes. Next slide, please. 8 general purpose lanes, let me be clear. The second phase, that bluish-green color, is the northern segment. It's listed in the TIP. It used to have a more detailed description in the TIP, but in 2021 at the TIP public hearing, it was changed to be described as just construct noise walls. In the 2045 long-range plan, that project's described as a general purpose lane from Hillsborough to Bears and a reconstruction of the Bears interchange at the very northern point. It needs design and construction dollars. In the 2045 LRTP, those costs were estimated at $200 million for the 8-mile segment and the interchange for $70 million. Those numbers have since been updated. So the most recent cost figures we have available are coming from the DOT SIST cost feasible plan, which estimates it at about $220 million. Next slide, please. For a little bit of context, these projects have been the subject of recent board discussions. As I just mentioned, at the 2021 TIP public hearing, the board agreed unanimously that we amend the description in the TIP. It used to have a longer description, and now what you can see in the TIP is Phase 1 construction funded, Phase 2 funding requested from Hillsborough to Bears, construct noise walls. And then at the TIP public hearing just this past summer, you all directed us to assess the impacts of removing these lanes from the long-range plan and present our analyses to you, which is what I'm here to do now in Section 2. Next slide, please. And then next slide, please. So if these projects get constructed, both Phase 1 and Phase 2, the diagram shown on this slide could be the typical section profile from I-4 all the way up to the Bears interchange. The right-of-way will consist of 4 12-foot lanes, a 12-foot outer shoulder to serve breakdown vehicles, emergency response vehicles, and then toward the inside, a 15-foot inner shoulder that would be hardened to accommodate the weight of a transit vehicle. The light gray shaded through lanes already exist. Again, as I mentioned, this segment is currently 6 lanes. That dark gray, black lane would be the lane addition. Next slide, please. The next 2 slides that I'm going to show you are lane diagrams, which present that information that I just shared in a slightly different way. So what you can note about this slide and the next is that the southern segments, which would be represented by further right of the screen, like just off of this screen would be I-4, and then moving to the left takes you to about Sly. That's Phase 1. The lane addition would happen toward the inner shoulder, and then as you move further left, that gets us north into Phase 2. Next slide, and that's color-coded yellow. So as you shift north of Sly, the lane addition would shift to the outside part of the interstate and provide continuity, basically. So if you look to the bottom of this slide, that green dotted line is showing that there would be a continuous route for folks hopping in that lane from Fletcher all the way to the I-4 flyover. Next slide, please. In addition to the general purpose lane and the Bears Ave interchange reconstruction, this project is also going to include several ancillary treatments, and they're listed in the FDOT PD&E document as two 15-foot wide inside shoulders which accommodate transit, as well as aesthetic treatments to the retaining walls, noise walls, multimodal enhancements, underdeck lighting, and of course culminating to the north in that Bears Ave interchange reconstruction. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip through these next few slides really quickly. The specific details of the ancillary treatments have yet to be decided. They will be fleshed out when this project gets to the design phase. But because this project is going to offer continuity with phase one, it makes a lot of sense that the treatments would look fairly similar to what we already have under construction, right? So I pulled these slides from an older FDOT presentation just to give you a sense of what it would look like. Next slide, please. I think this slide shows options for the walls and some potential public art locations. Next slide will show underdeck lighting and some improvements to the underpasses. Next slide, please. All right, this is kind of the heart of the presentation. We looked at the regional demand model results to assess what the impacts would be on traffic volume and congestion. Next slide. So we looked to the regional demand model, which is something that we develop collaboratively with DOT and the other MPOs serving this area. And this map is showing the traffic flow across Tampa Bay region, kind of focusing on that 275 corridor north of the DTI. With the two additional lanes on this section, volumes on 275 between Hillsborough Ave and Bears will increase by 2045 by between 16 to 18%. Parallel north-south roads will see decreases in traffic volume, and the effect will be more pronounced the closer you get to the interstate. So the two boxes to the very bottom part of this slide are showing that Florida is going to see a 16% decrease in local traffic. Nebraska, about 20% decrease. The further east and west you go, that effect starts to taper off a little bit. So by the time you get to Dale Mabry is only losing about 6% of its traffic volume, 56th Street about 2%. If you take it all the way to the east, all the way west, 75 is going to see a reduction of less than 1%, and Veterans Expressway the same, less than 1%. Next slide, please. So the reason why we're seeing this tapering effect, this cascading off, is because the regional demand model treats interstate facilities like a magnet, especially for longer trip lengths. It's going to assume that 275 would then be the more viable option for folks who are traveling roughly from like the USF area to downtown. So that's why it's soaking up some of that traffic. It looks like a fairly high percentage, right? 16%, 20% traffic loss on Florida and Nebraska, but that doesn't amount to a huge volume of actual vehicles. So when we look at the raw figures of cars that will be moved from the local network onto 275, let's use Florida Ave an example. It's only going to lose 2,000 cars in total per day. In Nebraska, we'll lose about 3,000 cars per day. Dale Mabry, 2,000 in each direction, and then 56th Street, about 500. Next slide, please. And again, those are 2045 traffic figures. These are forecasted out into the future. So those two previous slides demonstrate the effect on traffic distribution, showing that it's going to pull traffic off the local network, but the effect on traffic jams is shown on this slide and the next slide. What I'm showing on this map is volume to capacity ratio. It's a performance metric that we use that roughly correlates to congestion, like the traffic jams you feel. And there's only a very slight change as a result of adding the 2 lanes, making it 8 as opposed to 6. When you look at this map, most of 275 has a VC ratio greater than 1, and some segments score between 1.3 and 1.5. That would be very serious congestion. The very worst congested segment on 275 is between Hannah and Bird. So that segment is colored red, and I have a red arrow pointing directly to it. The segment between Hannah and Sly has a VC ratio greater than 1.5, and just north of that is a dark orange segment that runs from about Sly to Bird, and that scores between 1.3 and 1.5. So some very serious congestion under the 6-lane scenario. Next slide, please. If we were to add the 2 general purpose lanes, of course, the interstate would now be able to carry more vehicles. The VC ratio, however, wouldn't decrease all that much. Most of 275 still has a VC ratio between 1.0 and 1.3, so it's over capacity. And the worst congestion would now be shifted between Hillsborough and Sly, indicating that the effect of the traffic jam or the location of the traffic jam would be to push it slightly further south. Next slide, please. This next subsection is going to talk about the safety impacts. Next slide. We all know that this is a pretty dangerous part of the county. There are a lot of crashes throughout the project area. We did some data analysis looking at a crash database made available to us by FDOT. We counted 64 fatal and serious injury crashes just over the past 5 years. Most of those occurred on Nebraska, but when you look at some of the other parallel north-south corridors, they're pretty close. Florida Ave, Dale Mabry, 275, a little bit more effectively, and it'll reduce conflict points. But from a TPO perspective, rather than focusing on projects that add capacity, the TPO has often determined that it's more targeted to prioritize less costly, specific safety treatments. And what that would mean in this instance is focusing on Nebraska Ave, which has the lion's share of the fatal and serious injury crashes. So implementing some complete street treatments on that corridor, which are already identified in our Vision Zero action plan, could have a huge impact as well. Next slide, please. We looked through the DOT PD&E to identify some of the highest crash segments on 275. We pulled 5 to look at as examples. You can see the crash rate column. There are 5 segments on 275 that either double or triple the statewide average crash rate for urban interstates. So we know we have a problem. It's really hard to be definitive about what the crash reduction benefits would be of any project, but FDOT's PD&E is estimating a 10 to 15% reduction of all crashes, again, because that additional capacity could allow for cars to maneuver a little bit more efficiently. Next slide, please. And the next slide. There are 2 transit projects likely to be impacted by this project. The first is the Regional Rapid Transit, or RRT. The recommendation coming out of that RRT plan is to have rubber tire bus rapid transit vehicle running down the transit envelope
all along 275 from downtown St. Pete up north to Wesley Chapel. If 275 remains 6 lanes,
it would still be physically possible to operate this service. There's no physical obstacles to hardening the inner shoulder,
allowing it to accommodate the transit vehicle.
However, there's a nuance here. If this segment of 275 is 8-laned, FDOT has committed to funding that hardening to allow for the transit to operate. If it's not 8-laned, then the cost would be borne by TBARDA, and thus making its FTA grant application less competitive because the cost effectiveness rating would go down. Next slide, please. The other transit option through this corridor is HART's arterial BRT. We selected an image to show you from one of HART's recent plans. This is the low-cost alternative. So this project, just like the other, would connect downtown Tampa to USF, only using Florida and Fowler avenues to serve the USF and downtown transit market. Compared to an 8-lane interstate, if 275 remains 6 lanes, then by 2045, there will be an additional 1,500 cars on Florida Ave. It doesn't seem like much. I think we might need to run another congestion test to determine exactly what the impacts would be on the transit service, but I want to call that to your attention because it's something we could look at in greater detail in the future. Next slide, please. Lastly, the equity impacts. Next slide. I pulled a table showing current data And if you look at the red numbers that are highlighted, it's showing that about 400,000 people in Hillsborough County live in environmental justice areas, and half of those residents experience below average health outcomes. That means 1/6 of the county's entire population has a high risk profile just based on where they live. And on the other hand, like if you look at the alternative of that, that means there are about 800,000 people who don't live in EJ areas. Only 6% of that population have below average health outcomes. So clearly there's an inequity. Next slide, please. And I want to call your attention to that because one of the most important factors in assessing your risk profile is air quality. We took a screenshot and showed it on this slide. This slide shows that the EJ screening tool air quality monitoring system, we pulled some data over a 3-day period in September. Over those random 3 days, the air quality scores throughout this corridor fluctuated quite a bit. You see that there's some peaks and valleys, but they never get above a score of about 90 to 95. That green bar to the left is 0 to 50. That means your air quality is great, no problems. The yellow runs from 51 to 100, and that means your air quality is good except for all but those who are most sensitive. So that would be folks with COPD, maybe kids with asthma and conditions like that. Above 100, like 100 to 150, is where it starts to be concerning. Our analysis doesn't show anything concerning at this moment, but if this project were to move forward, it's something we should pay close attention to. Next slide, please. And now connecting the air quality piece to equity. This map is showing the environmental justice communities within the project area. They're represented by the shaded gray. You might note that almost the entire map, or at least half of it or more, is shaded gray. So these are disadvantaged folks. If the 2 lanes are added to 275, it would generate winners and losers. Of course, we know that it's going to act like a magnet, so it's going to pull some traffic off of local roads and neighborhoods in West Tampa, East Tampa. They would see a benefit, but it's not a ton of cars, so the benefit would be minimal. At the same time, it would produce losers who are also living in EJ communities. Egypt Lake, USF area, University Square, they would see a slight traffic increase running through their neighborhoods. So it's a question of how do we balance the harms? Next slide, please. That's pretty much it for me. My next slide is going to cover what the public engagement process would look like. This presentation is status. We're not actually offering a staff recommendation at this time, but if you, the board, directs us to host a public hearing to amend the LRTP, we would follow up with an engagement process culminating in a public hearing. I guess maybe a good way to open up this conversation is to offer or to solicit your opinions on how we would go about engaging the community. Of course, presentations will follow, but I'll seek your guidance on how we make that happen. Next slide, please. And I think I'm done, so I'll open it up to questions and discussion.
Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. Did you, don't mean, but did.
No.
Okay. Okay. I want to thank you for the presentation. As you know, I've been really focused on doing everything possible. I've spent decades doing that to avoid the never-ending highway expansion in the historic urban core of Tampa. I just have a few questions to make and a motion. First of all, can you just, for a little time, put up that roadbed picture? I think it's important. There's so much information, it's hard for everyone to absorb, even though we've been talking about this for years. I'll just keep talking. We're talking about the expansion of 275. You're calling this the northern segment. That's kind of changed a little bit over time. No, the one that has all the lanes in it that show how wide the football field will be. And I keep going back.
I think it's the yellow and blue lane diagram, Cheryl.
No. It's the one with all the lanes in
Oh,
it
the
that show
typical
the road
section.
bed.
It's right before
Mhm.
this. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, thanks. I just think it's really important for people to see and know that is what this area will turn into. We're calling the northern segment, that's from roughly Hillsborough Avenue to Bears. The board removed this project from the 5-year TIP in June 2021 at the TIP public hearing based on a vote of this board, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thanks. Now we're talking about basically the same project, and it remains, just so everybody understands how this works, it remains in our long-term plan, the LRTP, the 20-year LRTP. So we took it off the tip, but it still is in that long-term project. And what we're talking about doing today is starting a process. We're not deciding anything final right now. We're talking about a process, isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and so we're starting a process to consider whether or not to keep the 275 expansion project from Hillsborough to Bears in the long-term plan. And we start today with some basics about the cost and the potential benefits of the projects. And first of all, you talked about the cost. I'm sure it's going to tremendously increase like everything else. But you have said it's $223 million. That's right.
Yeah, we pulled that number from the most recent plan that was available to us. That's DOT's SIS cost feasible plan. The numbers that we had in the LRTP, the long-range plan estimated it at 270, but those cost estimates were developed several years ago. So we trusted that 223 would be the most recent and best estimate.
Thank you. And so we should be talking about what we get for this $225 million and I'm sure climbing. In terms of congestion, you had 2 slides, and maybe you could put those up. One with 6 lanes and one with 8 lanes. I'm comparing the congestion. Can you put up the 6-lane slide?
Cheryl, I think it's the one, it's orange, gray, red. Keep going. Keep going. I think it's this one.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the worst congestion in orange, right there between Hannah and Bird, is that correct?
Yes, under the 8-lane scenario.
Okay. Okay, and now put up
Or-
the
or,
8-lane.
I'm sorry. We're looking at the 8-lane scenario. Cheryl, the
No.
slide before this is showing the 6-lane.
6-lane. Let's do the 6-lane.
Yeah, that very dark red, I'm not even sure you all can see it. It's difficult to make it out on this map. But yeah, between Hannah and Bird, the VC ratio is above 1.5. So that would be like bumper-to-bumper traffic, hardly moving. And then there's a longer dark orange segment just north of that, which indicates also very severe congestion.
Okay, so there you have it with 6 lanes. Now put up the 8-lane slide. Okay, and there it is in orange again. Despite spending $223 million and climbing, the congestion's still there. It doesn't go away. And isn't it just a little to the south?
Yeah, that's right.
So despite the controversial interstate expansion, despite $220 million in counting with 8 lanes, we're just pushing the congestion a little bit to the south. And I'll just say too, the model shows us taking off cars, as you said, acting like a magnet to this and taking off cars off these other streets. And as someone who drives Florida, Nebraska, and I'm sure Commissioner Overman as well, every day these streets, one of the reasons there's accidents and issues is because those streets are empty and they're speeding cars all the time. And it is very, very under capacity on both of those or 3 of those streets all the time. But for one intersection, that's it. And under that, we're wasting our resources, not actually using those to capacity. And when you do that, you also make things safer as the speeds come down, and as you make the streets more efficient, you make them safer. Now, in terms of safety and looking at crashes, can you pull the slide, the highest crash segments on 275? As you can see, the crash rate on 275 is really bad compared to the statewide average. That's very big concern. Let's go to the crashes on the north-south corridor slides. There you reference FDOT's PD&E study. The slide states that the PD&E suggests that additional capacity will reduce crashes because of reduced congestion, but there's a thing there. We just talked about how additional slides won't help congestion much. So what we know about induced demand, the additional lanes aren't likely to induce more traffic to the highway anyway. That's true, correct?
I think that
Or
there's.
it will induce more traffic on the highway anyway.
I hesitate to answer that. I wasn't prepared to talk about that topic specifically, but we have received presentations about induced demand. So the information is definitely out there, and whether or not you think, 8-laning it will draw traffic volume, I don't think is debatable. We've kind of shown that in this presentation, and that's also stated in the PD&E.
Because of the time, I'm going to skip and let a few other people that might talk. I might want to come back and make a few other points that I have here. But at this time, I'll just move this motion. I move to direct the TPO staff to schedule a public hearing to remove these additional lanes on I-275 from the LRTP. I also move that as part of the process, the staff research these 15-foot internal lanes, you refer to them as shoulder, they're the internal lanes there, and coordinate a response with FDOT as to what those 15-foot lanes may be used for in the future. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, but we do have some discussion. I had Councilman Maniscalco, and then Secretary Gwynn is here, and he's asked to be recognized, and we'll move around the room. Go ahead, Councilman. Okay, Secretary Gwynn.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Good morning. Just a few items I wanted to bring up. The model, when you look at the model, there's a lot of information in there. And so we've heard some of the information from the model today. I think it's important, I'd like to just bring up a few items for consideration in this whole decision-making process, and also just to bring out some other information about the model that I think would hopefully be helpful. So the current model, which looked at 2045, includes an extremely robust transit system, including rail from the airport to downtown to USF. It includes BRT on probably a dozen facilities throughout the region, drawing 170,000 trips a day, dwarfing anything we're anywhere near today. All of that is included, which draws traffic off the roadways in the model. Even with that robust traffic transit system in there, we're showing a 50% increase in traffic on I-275 north of Hillsborough Avenue and a 100% increase in traffic on 275 north of Beers, meaning going up towards Pasco County. Of course, we look at this as both a regional roadway and a local roadway. It serves both purposes. There are people to use it for local trips, but there's also a regional system function to this roadway. If I-275 is not widened north, and I'm not making the argument to add this to the tip, that's not my point here. If you don't widen it, it shows that 30,000 trips that would have gone on the interstate are going to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And the biggest roads that we see that would take on that traffic are Florida, Nebraska, Dale Mabry, 22nd, 40th, and North Boulevard. All of those would see that 30,000 trips would be going over to those roadways. Of course, that increases the traffic on the local roadways. It increases the maintenance costs for the local roadways. And of course, you're going to see over time those numbers continue to grow. And if the transit system doesn't materialize, those numbers would be higher. Now, widening 275 would not solve congestion. There's no doubt that it won't solve congestion. But I just ask yourself to think about if you closed a lane on 275 today, both directions, and you said we're no longer going to have 3 lanes in each direction, we're going to have 2. You know what would happen, right? Traffic would still be congested and traffic would move outward. What we're talking about is not adding that 4th lane as the equivalent of doing that today, taking that 3rd lane away. I know I live on Bears just west of the interstate about over almost towards Dale Mabry. 12 years ago, I took to I-275 to get to work. A few years later, I started taking Florida. Now I take Boulevard. Because as you see, and those roads start to get more congested. That's just how traffic works, right? So you won't solve congestion by putting that, but what you will do is you will move more traffic within that congested environment. So I bring that up as a consideration. But the bigger thing I wanted to mention was, I'm not really quite sure what we are accomplishing by taking this out of the LRTP for a couple of reasons. One, what it really does is it may handcuff the future TPO to have to go through the process to reverse this. So you would have to do that, but it's not in the TIP, it's not funded. The bigger implication is that when that comes out, we have to look at the model runs and take that into effect. And what that essentially will do is make the traffic lane elimination studies that we've done to show the BRT on Florida, Tampa, they're no longer valid. And they most likely will not be approved because the model will now show the traffic being diverted. So we've gained really nothing in my mind, but we've given something up that we may want, which is the BRT projects down there and the streetcar that wants to use that lane elimination. I also remind you that we're only months away from starting the LRTP update. Beth, I'm not sure when we start it, but I think it's going to start early part of next year.
We're already working on the update of the population and job growth forecasts.
I would suggest that perhaps it be looked at as part of that process as opposed to pulling it out now. If it gets pulled out during that whole process, well, then it'll be out. But by pulling it out today, I think you may be not gaining a lot, but you may be giving something up. You don't have to add it to the TIP. Leave it out of the TIP. It's not in the TIP. It's not funded. But I think you're some unintended consequences that could occur if you take this action to move this forward. So I just wanted to make sure that I brought all that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll be going around the room. Commissioner Smith, I see you have had your hand raised, so let me call on you before we go back into the room.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, this is a great discussion, great presentation, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity to hear what Secretary Gwynn had to say. In his, you know, cautioning us about losing the studies that have already been done about our BRT project, I wonder how accurate I mean, when I look at this slide presentation that talks and the idea of whether or not we should increase, or the proposal to increase the lanes to 8 instead of 6. It includes this BRT on the inner lanes with pictures of buses, not trains, pictures of buses going up and down the interstate. That BRT on the interstate, that sort of BRT on the interstate, and all this discussion about whether it could be absorbed by T-Bardo or whether, you know, that FDOT would pay for it if it was 8 lanes, but not if it was 6 lanes. I mean, all of that is moot, and it's irrelevant, and it may very well be muddying up the discussion of the real BRT on street level that we have approved, that BRT on the interstate that's being shown on these inner lanes, and a big part of this proposal is not in the LRTP. It is not in the TIP because it's not cost feasible. Is that correct, Beth? Yes, that's correct. So that's a nonsensical piece of this proposal, and to say that if we take this proposal out of the LRTP, it would render this piece of the data that we have for the real BRT on the street level that we do want, and that is in our plans. It would render that somehow back to square one. I just don't see how that could be true. In fact, I think, you know, this information about BRT on the interstate could be in the way of our real BRT on the ground, because it would be, competing with that and duplicative of that. And so I really don't understand. I really think this is a compelling reason for me to support taking this project out of the LRTP until we can bring it more in line with our other BRT projects we have in the LRTP and the TIP. And having said all that, plus, still showing this BRT on the inner shoulders of the interstate, as if we'd have buses and those very expensive parking garages that were a part of that project, as if there's any way we're going to do that. It renders this really irrelevant and more of a problem than a solution. So I think we should take this out and then, possibly consider anything more realistic at a different time. I do have one question. If whenever we get to take this out, and I hope it's sooner than later, and that process of public outreach and further study, I think in that process we should also ask the question that since widening the interstate acts as a magnet, as we've seen and we all know, and it draws some traffic out of several local neighborhoods, I think we also need to ask, what are the negative economic impacts to those neighborhoods of pulling traffic out of them? It has only been so far presented as a plus that they would have less traffic. But I'm here to tell you that when I-75 was built, bypassing Highway 41 through the heart of Ruskin, it devastated the economy, the local businesses, restaurants like the iconic, the Cup, certain small local characteristic thriving businesses of the Ruskin Town Center were bypassed by pulling that traffic off of Highway 41 through Ruskin. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't view that as a positive. So that's the 2 points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Overman, I believe you wanted to be recognized next, and then Mayor Ross, and Ms. Evans, and if we'll just keep going around.
Okay, and much of what was said was some of the observations I had met, but here's the fascinating part. When we look at the safety numbers, and if we were to make safety the priority, what we've seen in this plan is that there would be what I have deemed as being the crux of the issue, is that there would not be any changes in the elevation or the bridge crossings and the roller coaster ride above Hannah, as we have not done south of Hannah. And consequently, honestly, any improvement that we've done to 275 at this point is not going to address crashes because of the roller coaster ride that occurs where the road goes up and down over every single overpass. So people can't see that when they're doing 60 or 65 down to 75 approaching or leaving, the car that's stopped in front of them trying to get across over to I-4. So that's one issue. So if widening 275 is an effort to address congestion that ultimately would address safety, that's not in this plan. Because it has specifically said that it would not include any changes in the elevation of the road, and I've heard repeatedly that that is not a part of the budget. But the other thing to consider is if we don't have a sales tax, there is no way that regional BRT from Pinellas and Pasco is going to come down 275 because Hillsborough County will not have the funding to participate in the prorated cost to run that transit agency. So if you want road widening in order to create 275, and that's your goal, is to build more roads, It's not going to happen if you have to actually do it because you need a lane for a bus to come down. And without a protected lane, the turnaround times that were presented in the BRT project, that was presented to the TBARTA and other boards, that is not realistic. It will not happen. They will not have the speed and the turnaround time to remove the traffic off the interstate, to relieve our surrounding counties' efforts to come into Hillsborough where the jobs are, and will not reduce the traffic. Additionally, when we talk about widening creates safety, you'll notice in the safety report that you saw earlier the number of crashes on the local roads as a consequence of this. The highest incidence of unsafe is in the widest section of Nebraska Avenue between Hillsborough and Bears. So since when did widening a road make anything safe? Especially when complete streets is not part of the design. So I will support the motion because it really doesn't work in line with what we've talked about when it comes to safe roads, safe streets, ease of transportation, balanced mobility in terms of helping people get around, as well as the understanding finances associated with where we're going. There will not be, if we don't get something in place to fund local road transportation, an opportunity to even support spending $223 million for a road widening on 275. It just is not going to serve the goal. So I'll support the motion.
Mayor Ross and then Ms. Evans.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've had a lot of discussion about the perceived merits or drawbacks, but my focus is not even on the value or the perceived value or the dangers of doing it. My focus is just on procedure and making the most of our public tax dollars that we're supposed to be good stewards of. The LRTP by law has to be revised every 5 years. Wisely so, because it forces us as a body to go back and make sure that our TIP and our LRTP are in line with changing priorities, demographics, job rate. Things happen at the airport, the port, things change. So every 5 years, we're compelled as a body to go back and make sure everything is still lined up. It's a not perfect system, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. Well, we're just about to begin the process of doing the scheduled 5-year LRTP. And this discussion, as robust as it is, and maybe it's, I mean, I'm not even want to jump in on whether it's a good idea or not. I just think it's misguided. We're spending taxpayer money to go out of order and to push this out of the LRTP, out of cycle. It's not a funded project. It's not funded in the TIP. Nobody's going to sneak out between now and 2024 and build this. It's not funded, and it can't get funded without us funding it. So there's absolutely zero chance that this is going to get built before the normal LRTP revision clock takes its normal course. And so we're spending, this isn't our money, this is taxpayer money, I know you know that, but we're spending this extra money to do this now as if there's some kind of urgency to this when there's not. Maybe we should take it out, I don't know. I don't think we even ought to be talking about it. I think it ought to be something we talk about on the normal clock. We've already spent, how many thousands of dollars in staff time did we spend for Dr. Wong to put this wonderful presentation together? The only redeeming thing is it's not going to be that old. We can probably still use the same data. But this is just, in my opinion, not a good, prudent use of taxpayer money. Whether you want to take it out or not, that's a discussion that we should have during the normal revision process.
Yes, Ms. Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. I completely agree with everything that Mayor Ross just said. You know, you guys just saw last month, Joe was here presenting our master plan. That's a long-term plan for 20 years of planning. Those are expensive and they are costly, and we are about to do another one of these. And from our perspective, when we talk about the airport, it's not just the passengers, it's not visitors, it's the over 10,000 jobs that are supported and are created at the airport. And so many of those people and so many of those workers can't afford to live in Hillsborough County anymore. So what does that look like? They're all moving north. And so I think that from the airport's perspective, taking this pause to go through this long-range transportation plan, again, this isn't funded. It still has to come back here. But for the sake of the growth of this community and the sake of those over 10,000 jobs, if we still want to be an economic engine and we don't want those flights or those things or those jobs going to other places, we need to take a pause and look at it from that perspective and allow the long-range transportation process to work itself out to show how we grow for the next 20 years. And again, this isn't funded. It still would have to come back here. But keep it in for planning purposes now so that we can see what the future of this county looks like.
Mr. Slater.
Thank you. Just two quick points. One on the data perspective. First, I've worked on a lot of these over the years, and when you're looking at volume over capacity ratio as the single measure of congestion, you have to remember that congestion gets to a point that it doesn't get worse, it just gets longer. So your peak hour is 4 hours. And so you get to the complete saturation point. And I think, so we have to be able to look at all of those data points as we do. But to Mayor Ross's point and to Ms. Evans's point, when you're looking at this project as part of the full process of the long-range plan, it allows us the ability to make trade-offs and look at projects and compare to each other and say, well, this is a corridor that we want to focus on this kind of transportation, and this is a corridor that we want to focus on the other, and really make those trade-offs and thoughtful decisions in terms of how the entire system works versus one project.
Do I see anyone else that wishes to speak? Commissioner Kemp, did you wish to speak again?
I'll just say this. This is a step in the process, and this is critical and central. So, I mean, you can look at the other, amendments, changes, additions, mostly, I would say, that you would expect in the longer process. But certainly this deserves the amount of attention as the central major project that has occupied this TPO for 8 years now. And I know many of you have never been to the meetings that happened with 600 people till 4 a.m, where this has been central. And that's before I even became a commissioner. And it's important for us to really look at this. There's nothing, this is important in terms of really getting a full picture and focusing on this, because this is the most significant decision that we have moving forward. It's okay to bring this out, to focus resources. Certainly the most expensive, if we want to talk about taxpayer dollars, spending $220 million and probably 300 or 400, and not even understanding or having a complete picture of what that does. So I think that is really very significant. And there's also, I just like to say that operationally, a few years ago, we were told that the express lanes were out of this project, that we had voted them out. That's not accurate at all. Those internal 15-foot lanes, which today, here, I find that they're there no matter what or something. It's just how they decide to divide the roadbed. Those will be express lanes, and that can be made without, we cannot stop that from happening here. It's going to be an operational decision that can be made at any time in the future. So I just, I think that that's important to have as we go forward to look at.
Commissioner Overman. And
I'll keep it very short.
If I could just real quickly, that's completely false. I just want to bring that out. We cannot add express lanes. Our document does not allow us to do that. That is not a possibility. I've seen you post it online. I've seen it out there in the social media, but I want to clear that up. We cannot do that. I came before this commission years ago and committed we wouldn't put the express lanes. That commitment still stands. It's not in any approved document. We cannot do it.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So you're saying in the future, operationally, you put those lanes in the future, no one can just decide that those lanes, because it's an operational decision, correct?
we would have to go back through the environmental process because we've got an approved environmental document. We would not be able to go out and just do it without having to reopen the whole document. That's the same thing with the downtown interchange. I think I also saw in the post that this is a ploy to try to get the downtown interchange to be blown out again. We would have to open up the whole SEIS. I mean, you're talking multi-year processes that would take all kinds of steps, but I know that they think we have a nefarious scheme that we're building up here to come out there and put express lanes in one night and you wake up. There's nothing like that. We can't do that. There's nothing out there that would allow us to do that. So I've heard it a number of times, but we just can't.
Okay. And I just don't wonder why they're 15-foot lanes, but we won't go. I mean, that should be something that's further part of this discussion in the future, I believe. But the other thing is there wasn't, I didn't suggest a ploy, but this will induce and bring more traffic. Then we're going to come back to the whole interchange, which originally was planned to be much bigger. We're going to come back to that, I believe, in future years, decades, and have to be looking at that again. That was my point about that.
Commissioner Overman, and then we'll try to
and
bring this in
keep
for a
this
landing.
very brief. One of the reasons why I said I would support it was largely because there were so many people that would be violated the expansion of this interstate. But in my opinion, this type of project in our LRTP does violate many of our other policies that we've adopted over the years when it comes to transportation, mobility, safety, and important fiduciary, investments in our community. So I'll stop there.
Before we vote, Ms. Alden, let me ask you a question. The revisions to the LRTP, when is the schedule of how that's going to work in terms of the normal process? When will this board take up the revisions, and when will we vote on the next 5-year iteration?
That'll be about 2 years from now, November of 2024.
Okay, so it isn't really right around the corner, just to clarify. I mean, it's not like it's starting in February or something. All right. Let me say this. I am uncomfortable with this conversation today, and I'll tell you why. I have never felt more unsure about where we are in terms of our transportation planning in Hillsborough County. I think that the state of uncertainty that we are all living under right now is like nothing that I've ever experienced before. I've been on this board off and on for a decade, and we keep identifying the same problems, and we, time and again, are prevented from giving our citizens the opportunity to vote on whether or not to make some big changes. And unfortunately, the state of just uncertainty surrounding everything makes every one of these decisions all that much more difficult because we really don't know what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. I voted to take this out of the tip. I agree with what Commissioner Overman just said about the principles that would be violated by allowing something like this to go forward. But on the other hand, we are completely flying blind about what our funding sources are going to be that are going to be available for transportation going forward. We have absolutely no idea anymore whether any of the assumptions that we've been made about transit are going to really come to fruition or not. And so I just feel like, quite frankly, the timing of this is just not good. And that's the problem that I'm having. I would love to be able to vote on this even a month or two from now when we have a sense of what the next 2 years are going to look like. And that is the idea of starting public hearings on this issue in January gives me some trepidation because I don't know what the state of things is going to be then. We don't know what's going to happen with this tax in the next week, much less over the 2 months. So, like I said, I voted to remove this from the tip. I think that widening the expressway, given everything that we've learned, is probably a very bad idea. But I think that there's no compelling reason to deal with the tip right this minute. There's no reason that we can't get a little more clarity about where we are before we start making some of these really long-term decisions. So I think that I cannot go along with the motion today, but I want to be very, very clear that I might be willing to go along with the motion when we have a little bit more clarity about where we are and can understand the field that we're playing on. Commissioner Kemp.
Based on your comments, I would like to amend my own motion to move this, continue this to February.
That's excellent, and I really appreciate your doing that. There's a second to that, Commissioner Overman.
And that may be productive, but given where we are right now with the risk of not having our citizens be eligible for their vote to be counted, because the ballots are already out. I mean, the ballots are out. But it's whether or not we receive a stay and whether or not we receive an opinion on the referendum that has been offered voters to invest in projects such as this and others, right? You know, we may not have an answer. It took the Supreme Court 2 years to give us an answer on the last time we went through this, when a select group decided to keep our voters' vote from being counted. But here we are again. So it may not count. It may not matter. But I'm willing to offer that as a way of saying, at this point, we might have an opportunity of having a more productive conversation, but I'm still highly opposed to it as a consequence of the fact that I believe it violates too many of our policies in our transportation planning going forward.
All right, with that, can we take a vote on Commissioner Kemp's?
Mr. Chair, really quick for clarification. Is the vote going to be to have staff schedule the hearing for February, or is it to bring the issue back in February?
I believe it's to bring the issue back to this board
Yes,
for a vote.
it's to bring
in
this issue
February.
back.
To establish a hearing.
And with that, that is the motion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Why don't we do a roll call vote?
Yeah,
just
I
to
think-
be
Be on
sure.
the safe side.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes.
Commissioner Overman?
Yes.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Yes.
Councilmember Citro? Mayor Ross?
Nay.
Mayor Kilton? Gina Evans?
Yes.
Greg Slater? Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
The motion passes 9-4.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Overman, you asked to be recognized.
Just 1 second. I wanted to make sure that, because I know we're losing our quorum, but it doesn't really require a vote. Just for note, the Board of County Commissioners meeting is a special election meeting tomorrow, Thursday at 5 p.m. To discuss what our options are regarding the transportation referendum. It will be open to public comment, and as critical as this issue is as far as all of our planning, if you have an interest in actually helping the Board of County Commission decide how to move forward or give some guidance on whether it's important to you or not, please sign up for public comment to attend tomorrow's meeting. And I just want to make sure everyone was aware. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and you can watch it on the same channel that you're watching this. All right, I think, Ms. Alden, if we can very briefly just go through whatever you'd like to highlight before we adjourn, because I do think we're going awfully late here.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder to everyone that we do not have a regularly scheduled board meeting next month because of the election. We are having a field trip visit to see the Sunrunner BRT in St. Pete. We have some great speakers lined up for that, so I really encourage you. That is a project that was created without a sales tax. And at our December meeting, when we reconvene, that is our regular time to hold officer elections for the coming year. Just a reminder that we did change the bylaws earlier, and so we do have term limits now for our board chair and vice chair, so we will need to entertain some new candidates. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.